Hello, hello. How are you on this beautiful, I guess it's rainy day here. Today, I wanted to talk about practicing discernment in the spiritual wasteland. That sounds pretty dark and crazy. But I would conjecture that if anybody who's watched the Mad Max movie, where the world's kind of going crazy and all this scarcity and all this kind of stuff, there's a lot of spiritual stuff that's being stated as truth that is actually completely inverted, and it's draining us. And the only way through is not to judge it, but to start to practice discernment. Does this feel good in my heart? Is what's going on underneath? Most things that are popular memes in spirituality, I have noticed, have an inversion in them. I did a post earlier today about this post that's very popular among women right now of how sex is sacred and you're exchanging DNA and how casual sex is the downfall of everything, and it's doing all this stuff. And it's got a little bit of truth in it, but at the same time, it's doing all these things that forces you to be ashamed. It puts all sex into the sacred category. It pushes it out of reach of most people. Oh, if it's sacred, I have to do that. Well, sacred's a word that religions use to control us, and it basically says that only somebody that's been initiated or trained as a priest is allowed to do it. So how then does sex come to somebody that's just becoming sexual? All this kind of stuff, if it's got to be sacred, well, how do I learn that without having sex or without having somebody to work with or whatever? Basically, it's put out of reach. And then we shame it and we say things like exchanging body fluids is exchanging DNA and all these other things. Well, yeah, it's true. And that's the seed of life. It's also called Amrita. It's a beautiful, spiritual, energetic, life force giving, energetic thing. And we talk about saving our seed and doing all these things without basically saying that any act of sexuality is depleting ourselves. I'm gonna go throw a bomb into all of this stuff, and it's bullshit. It's not true. If you're doing sex at a low vibrational level, yes, it will be draining and you will not have it anymore. But if you're doing sex at a very higher level where you're joining with your partner and you're having pleasure, it is not a draining. It's actually an accelerating and creating and manifesting thing. So I don't want to get hung up just on that, but that's an example of a meme where everybody says, yeah, me too, I love it. And they're not realizing what they're propagating underneath. The top level aligns with them, but the lower level, when you go down and look with discernment at the words and the underneath shaming of the act of sexuality and the innocence and purity of it, and to be able to share that with someone that maybe you just met and you choose to share that part of your life with them, there's no shame in that. There's no evil or dark in that. And making that sex for the first time and calling it casual sex and denigrating a sacred act between two people that are choosing in that time. And if you're low vibration, that's a different thing. And it has nothing to do with the act. You're going to get low vibration if you put low vibration in. So other places to look. There are so many things where people are charging exorbitant amounts of money to heal people, to give them the truth, to tell them that they've got the path and they've got it all figured out. I'm going to tell you something here right now. And yeah, it may piss off some people or whatever, but those who can't teach, you know it in the education system, you know it in all these other kind of places. The people that haven't figured out the shit are trying to make money off of the process of them figuring it out. And it's happening all over the place. There's people that, oh, I can coach men, I can coach women, I can coach priestesses, I see it every day, and they're putting thousands of dollars on it, and yes, I have to put money on it because I need to survive, and all these things, but they're spreading their wounds, they're spreading their trauma, they're giving it to other people and saying that this is a gift from God and it's sacred and all this shit, when they haven't even figured it out for themselves. The test of these things is to see how these people's lives really are, how they're making it through, how they deal with people, what accomplishments they have. And I'm not talking about certifications and all this kind of stuff, because in a lot of ways, certifications are bullshit too. They're just spreading and propagating somebody else's idea of what's best. Reiki is a really good version of it, right? Reiki is infiltrated as much as anything. And it sticks you into this box and says you can only do it the way the master has taught you. Does that feel free and good and source filled and whatever? No. We are learning throughout our life. And honestly, I know Reiki. I can do Reiki, but the level of stuff that I do with Reiki now is way past what those limited symbols and initiations and attunements and all this kind of stuff. New stuff is coming into the field every day that's completely outside that wasn't allowed to happen ever before. The modalities that we're all creating, we're all bringing our own personal awareness and new knowledge into these things. To get a certification says that you're stuck in the old, and yeah, you're safe and whatever, but there's no certification in the world that makes sure you're a good person or that you're safe inside or have dealt with your trauma. The stuff that's coming through and forward now is through people that have done their shadow work. They've done it in their own private lives. They've done it in their own awareness. And I don't want somebody treating me or being inside my energy. I've had hundreds of people and women and men and whatever that have massaged me and given me Reiki and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times I feel attached to afterwards. It's not my darkness that's going on. Some of these modalities have this built in, and it's siphoning energy from people. The people that I trust are the people that have been through the valley of darkness and done their shadow work and know how to deal with triggers and know what energy is. How can I feel safe in a room with a person sharing my deepest energies when a person's not even okay with that energy themselves yet? They haven't done their work on these things. So discernment means, does this person feel safe, but at a heart level? I'm not talking read their certifications, read their credentials, look at the reviews that people have given. I'm saying these are the people that have walked through their darkness and are ready. They're the quiet ones. They're maybe kind of off and independent by themselves. These are the people that are going to take up the next level. I also see this massive thing where women are teaching other women in these creative circles and channeling Mary Magdalene and other things. And I don't believe at some level they definitely are. But at the same time, they're propagating their traumas into women. I spent time talking to many women over the last 10 years of my life who are saying they're priestesses and they're channeling priestess energy and all this kind of stuff. And yet some of those women, physical sexuality is no longer required and our bodies are transcending out of it. And when I have those discussions, there's some shame around sexuality. There's some trapped trauma. There's some things still left. So can you channel purity of these goddesses and then forward it and give it to other women and say it's truth when you haven't finished your work yet? And yeah, maybe it's all meant to be a mangled up process. I even have attended schools where women are initiated and the people that were leading it weren't able to hold the container for the people. They smashed open and ran away for days on end in the middle of the course and leaving no one to kind of hold the container. That encouraged women to violate their own personal boundaries in the instance of doing sacred rituals. And collecting massive sums of money. And then a lot of these women just wandering away, not knowing what to do. These women that are teaching and leading become these mother figures that fill this mother figure hole. And I've counseled some of the people afterwards, and it's taken them a long, long time to get out from under what they thought was a good thing when it was actually the wounds of the person involved. So there's so much stuff in spirituality right now that is not serving, that is broken, has attachments, has darkness, has remnants of the low vibration of the person that came from. I'm actually going to even conjecture that most things that were created before the last maybe beginning of the year had some level of negative attachment to them, no matter what it is. And it's not in the visibility of the person involved. It may be from the outside, but we didn't have a choice in attaching to some of these energies. We were still doing our shadow work. And why do we call it shadow? It's the stuff that we can't see. And we're teaching other people that are starting to step forward and open up to possibility and new paths and all this kind of stuff. And those very people still were propagating shadows because they hadn't done their own work, or they there is no certification for people to say they've done all their shadow work and they've cleared their field and they're now teaching from a pure perspective. We have to jump to the next vibration is what my belief is. There's a lot of people doing it from a good and honest heart, but I've lost track of the number of women that want to coach men. It's the most terrifying thing that I've found, where they're coaching men into the model that makes them feel safe. And then they're smiling about it. And I'll go and attend their workshops and their free master classes and stuff like that. There's so much control. There's so much emasculation. They're saying that this is all for the good of men, but it's actually self-serving. It's for them. And I don't know how many times I've been attacked by women that say they got it all figured out and they're the right kind of people for men or whatever. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying they may be saying one thing, but their actions are doing something different, and it's from their wound. So this is where discernment comes in. I'm not judging any of it. I'm just speaking of the examples that I had. Does this feel right? Does this feel controlling? Does this feel like there's a wound underneath? Does it feel like there's some shadow in this person? We need to go look at these things. When you repost something on Facebook, just go look at it. Is there an inversion in it? Look at the words. Read it over half a dozen times. If it makes you feel all light and excited, I'm going to almost guarantee there's an inversion in it, because that boost, that feeling that, oh, me too, or whatever, is building on a collective wound. And that wound is the very thing that's continuing to propagate and steal energy and all these things. And it's creating the inability that thing, the inability to see it. You just do this collective kumbaya and codependency of, oh, where have all the good men gone, or where have all the good women gone, or where have all the whatever gone. It's the fucking inversion of the matrix. Just go look at it. Go dig a little deeper. Feel underneath the energy of everything you're sharing. Feel into the people that you're dealing with. Feel into everything that you're doing. And is it serving you? And is it giving the actual result that you're intending? Because a lot of these memes, they're intending a result of sacredness and holiness and injecting it into the field, but it's actually an energy of judging and putting on a pedestal and making it out of reach, because you're not sacred, you're not religious, you're not whatever. But how can you be those things until you've done some stuff that helps you find that? You can't shut it off and expect to become an expert in it, or to go to somebody and they got it all figured out. This is the discernment stuff. When you start to realize that all the answers are within ourselves, and that sitting in codependence with other people and singing kumbaya about stuff we hate or whatever is actually adding energy to that fire, adding resistance to it. It's creating more of the same. But we don't realize that. We just keep doing it and then can't figure out why the world isn't changing. Well, look underneath. And the teachers, I'm trying to teach here, and I'm trying not to teach from my wound, and I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm just speaking of things like discernment, looking underneath, being aware. What's your whys? What's your hows? All these kind of things. I'm not ever going to ask you to do anything other than something that you've looked at and have agreed to and made a choice on. That's what teaching is now. That's what sharing from energetic experience, sharing of observances, of witnessing of what's going on and what's mangled, so that we can repair this once and for all and get a pureness of our energetic intention back without social media, oh, I agrees, and getting workshops that you pay thousands of dollars from people that are wounded, that haven't really done the work, but they claim they're better. Well, I'm going to tell you, when they're working from their wound, do you think the darkness works through their wound and it gives them the energy they need to be attractive to people, make them positive, look like they've got it all figured out? And then you get in it and you get through partway through it and you crash. And then you got a reset and you're stuck again. Right now, the work is in doing it by yourself. Discernment, sitting quiet, looking at what's going on, feeling the energies underneath. Is this from positivity, or is this from codependence, or is this from trying to climb out of the past? You're going to see a big difference. And that all comes from trusting inside yourself. It has nothing to do with the number of likes, the number of people, the reviews, the posts, the how nice their website looks like, or how many certifications they have. You're going to know with all your heart who the people are that you can trust, because they're speaking from their heart. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're not trying to convince you of anything. They're getting you to ask a fucking lot of questions. And that's the only thing that gets us through. And we need to shake people up. That's why I use the word fuck. It's getting people shooken up to say, huh, maybe there's some truth under this. It's a punctuation mark. So go take a look. Discern into anything that's not working for you right now, and you're going to see and maybe make a choice. And maybe it's to end. Maybe it's to call it out a little bit and speak about it so that other people can see, and then we can move forward. And we can move forward with purity of our heart, purity of our intention, no longer mangled with other people's courses and their ideas of how the world should work. It's all from ourselves. This is our reality. We don't need other people's realities. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 10 years trying to find the workshop and the thing that figured me out and shit like that. None of it does. What figures you out is you. And when you're confident inside and you love yourself and you make choices by what's in your gut and what feels good, and not about trying to fix yourself and giving your power away. And the whole spiritual world, anybody that wants to give you your power away and force you to get a certification and all this kind of stuff, is not for your highest good. Yeah, it makes you feel safe or whatever, but the thing that makes you feel safe is you inside, the work you've done, and whether or not you can deal with the shit that shows up. And there's not many certifications that deal with the shadow work that's required to make you safe as a person that deals deeply with people's traumas or their bodies or anything. So go look inside. We're being distilled. We're being purified. It's going to happen no matter what. Just trust yourself. Step away from the distractions and practice discernment, and you're going to get there way faster than anything else. I love you all. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Be discerning.